You wanted this. You need to remember that. You chose it. You signed the papers. You packed the boxes. You made the calls. You told the children. You did all of it with your own hands, with your own voice, with your own decision. And people around you said, "Good for you. You are so brave. You deserve better. This is the right thing." And you nodded because it was the right thing. You knew it was the right thing. You had known for a long time that the marriage was over, long before the lawyers, long before the papers, long before any of it became official. You had grieved it quietly, from the inside, for years before you ever said the word divorce out loud. So why are you still crying at 2 in the morning? Why does the other side of the bed feel like an accusation? Why do you drive past the restaurant where you had your first date and have to pull over? Why, when you wanted this, does it feel like loss? You are not alone in asking that question. You are not alone in feeling this. And if nobody in your life has said it to you yet, let Mama Amelia say it now. What you are feeling is real. It is grief. Real, valid, complicated grief. And it does not care that you wanted the divorce. Grief never asks whether the ending was your choice. It just arrives, and it stays for as long as it needs to. Before we go any deeper, if this channel has ever made you feel less alone, please subscribe. Leave a kind word in the comments. Share this with a woman in your life who is walking through something similar. This community is built by women who show up for each other, and you being here matters. Now, let us go all the way in. Nobody prepares you for this part. Everyone talks about the decision. Everyone has an opinion about the decision. Should you go? Should you stay? Have you tried everything? What about the children? What about the vows? What about? Everyone has something to say about the decision. But the moment you make it, the moment the papers are signed and the life you knew is officially over, everyone goes quiet, as if the hard part is finished, as if leaving is the ending. But leaving is not the ending. Leaving is just the beginning of a different kind of hard. And nobody warned you about that. Nobody sat you down and said, "You are going to grieve this, even though you chose it, even though it was right, even though staying would have cost you more. You are still going to grieve it, and the grief is going to confuse you. Because how do you mourn something you chose to end? How do you cry over a marriage you knew was broken? How do you miss someone you could not stay with? How do you hold both things at once? The relief of leaving and the devastation of the loss? Nobody told you that both of those things could be true at the same time. Nobody told you that relief and grief are not opposites. They are companions, and they are both going to live inside you for a while. You miss things you did not expect to miss. Not him, or not only him. You miss the shape of the life, the ordinary Tuesday evenings that you used to complain about and would give almost anything to have back, not because they were good, but because they were yours. You miss the sound of another person in the house, not his voice specifically, just a voice, just the knowledge that you were not alone. You miss having someone to call when something small happens, something funny, something that does not matter, something that only matters because you want to share it. You reach for your phone sometimes before you remember, and the remembering is its own small grief. Every single time, you miss the version of yourself that existed inside that marriage. Even if she was not always happy, even if she was sometimes invisible, even if she had made herself small to fit, she was still you. and she is gone now. And the woman standing on the other side of this, the woman you are becoming, she is still so new, so unfamiliar, so uncertain of herself. And some days that is exciting, and some days it is the most frightening thing you have ever felt. People keep telling you to be grateful, and you are. You are genuinely grateful. You are grateful for the courage it took to leave. You are grateful for the freedom that is slowly, so slowly, beginning to feel real. You are grateful that your children will grow up watching a mother who chose herself. You are grateful for all of it, but gratitude and grief live in the same body, and right now they are both in yours. And the grief does not make you ungrateful, and the gratitude does not erase the grief. You are allowed to feel both. You are allowed to say, I know this was right, and it still hurts. Both sentences can be true. Both sentences are true, and you do not have to choose between them. There is a particular grief that comes from mourning a marriage that was already dead. Long before you ended it, you had already done so much of the grieving while you were still inside it. The night you realized it was over and could not tell anyone. The morning you watched him across the breakfast table and felt nothing. Not anger, not love, just the quiet understanding that something between you had already ended. You grieved then, silently, without ceremony, and so you thought, when the actual divorce came, you thought you would have already done most of the work. You thought you would be further along, but grief does not work that way. Grief is not linear. Grief does not reward you for early preparation. Grief arrives in its own time, at its own pace, in its own way, and sometimes it waits. It waits until the papers are signed, and the house is divided, and the life is officially over, and then it arrives, all of it, at once, and you are standing in your new apartment, or in your mother's spare room, or in a house that is half empty and still smells like before, and it hits you, and you are not ready. You thought you would be ready. You were not ready. Here is something nobody tells you about divorce grief. It comes in waves, and the waves are not predictable. You can have 3 good days. Days where you feel light, where you feel like yourself, where you catch a glimpse of the life that is coming, and it fills you with something that feels almost like hope. And then something small happens. A song on the radio, a photograph you forgot was in a drawer, your daughter laughing in a way that looks exactly like him, a Sunday afternoon that has no shape to it, and the wave comes, and it is not smaller than the first one. It is not progress. It is just a wave, and you ride it, because you have learned by now that you cannot fight a wave. You can only stay in your body and let it move through you and trust that it will pass. And it does. It always passes. And you are still there on the other side, still standing, still breathing, still you. You wonder sometimes what you are actually grieving, because it is not simple. It is not one thing. It is 100 things. You are grieving the marriage you had and the marriage you thought you were going to have when you said I do. Those are 2 different griefs. You are grieving the future you planned, the one that is not going to happen now, the anniversaries, the holidays that will never look the same, the growing old together that is no longer the plan. You are grieving the family as a whole. Even if the family is still there, even if the children are there, it is different now, and the before is gone. And you are grieving the before. You are grieving your identity. Wife. You were someone's wife. and now you are not. And that word, that small, ordinary word, held more of your identity than you realized. And now it is gone, and you are figuring out who you are without it. And that figuring out is exhausting and terrifying and necessary. And it is also grief. The loneliness is different to what you expected. You expected to feel lonely. You prepared yourself for it, but you did not expect it to feel like this. You did not expect the specific loneliness of making a decision alone. Every decision now yours. Every problem yours to solve. Every late night worry yours to carry. There is nobody to turn to in the dark and say, "Did you hear that noise?" There is nobody to split the weight with. And you chose this. You know you chose this. But nobody told you that the weight of freedom is something you have to build the strength to carry. That it does not come naturally. That some days the freedom feels like wings. And some days it feels like too much sky and not enough ground. And then there are the children, if you have them, the grief of watching them move between two worlds, the backpack that goes back and forth, the bedroom that is half here and half there, the holidays negotiated, the birthdays divided. You made the right choice for them too. You know that. Children who grow up in peace are better than children who grow up watching their parents perform a marriage that had already ended. You know that. But knowing it does not protect you from the grief of watching your child carry a bag from one house to another. That grief is quiet, and it is constant, and it sits in your chest in a way that never fully lifts. And you carry it because you are their mother, and carrying the hard things quietly is something mothers learn in the very first moments of the job. But here is what nobody tells you about the other side. There is another side, and it is worth it. Not in a tidy, inspirational way, not in the way the books promise, but in a real way, a slow way, a quietly extraordinary way. One day you wake up, and the first thought you have is not about him. It is about something you want, something small, something ordinary, but yours. And you lie there for a moment, and you feel it. This small, tentative thing, this beginning of yourself, and it is fragile, and it is real, and it is yours in a way that nothing has been yours in a very long time, and you hold it carefully like something new, like something that needs protecting, like the first green thing pushing through winter ground. You are not behind, even if it feels like everyone else has already figured out their life, and you are still standing in the rubble of yours. You are not behind. You are exactly where you are supposed to be, in the middle of something hard that is becoming something new. And that becoming, as painful and as slow and as unglamorous as it is the most important work of your life. Because the woman you are becoming on the other side of this grief, on the other side of this divorce, on the other side of all the nights and the waves and the decisions and the loneliness, that woman is extraordinary. She has been tested in ways most people never will be. She has chosen herself when everything around her said stay. She has held her children and her life and her grief all at once, without dropping any of it. She is extraordinary, and she is you. You are already her. You are just still becoming her. And that is allowed. That is exactly right. You wanted this. You chose it. And it still hurts. And both of those things are true. And you are going to be okay. Not today, maybe. Not tomorrow. But in the slow, quiet, accumulating way, that okay actually comes. You are going to be okay. You are going to build a life that is yours in every way, a life that does not require you to make yourself small, a life that has room for all of you. And one day, further down the road, you are going to look back at this moment, this hard, confusing, grief-soaked moment, and you are going to say, that was where it started. That was the moment I chose myself, and everything that came after came from that. You are still here. After all of it, you are still here. And that is not nothing. That is everything. If this reached you today, if something in these words named what you have been carrying alone, you are not alone. Leave A in the comments. Share this with a woman you know who needs to hear it. Subscribe so you never miss a week. This is Mama Amelia, and I will see you next time.